AI in Action is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Our host brings you the leading minds in AI, sharing their story, their success, and their advice. Focusing on fast-tracking you to the top, AI in Action cuts through the hype to help you kickstart your data science career. To listen to the latest AI in Action podcast, head over to www.alldus.com/podcast or subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Podcasts.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Alldus podcast. I'm your host, Ben Sparks, and today we are continuing with our Digital Transformation series with a focus on ServiceNow, interviewing some of the best and brightest leaders from across the ServiceNow ecosystem. Today we're lucky to host Ryan Walton-King. Ryan holds the position of VP Transformation, Technology and User Experience at AT&T. Ryan is a visionary leader and trusted business collaborator. Ryan has an amazing 20-year tenure at AT&T and has been responsible for transforming business-to-business and business-to-consumer experiences, working with leading-edge large enterprise teams, defining and executing strategic direction, focusing on technology and transformation. Ryan is currently responsible for leading the deployment of ServiceNow across the organization. Ryan will be touching on a range of topics, including his career, offering some advice and mentorship, and specifically looking at navigating growth to an executive leadership role. Some macro trends driving digital transformation in the telecommunications industry. Why ServiceNow is AT&T's platform of choice. And some implementation learns and best practice and tips and tricks he's on the way. So, Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ben. This is really excited to be a part of. I appreciate the invite.
No, thanks for jumping on. So, look, I'm sure AT&T doesn't need any real introduction. So let's start with yourself. Could you give our listeners an overview of who they're listening to, your role, responsibilities, etc.?
So currently, I am in the AT&T Business Global Operations Transformation Office. That's a big mouthful, and it's a $21 billion business. Just think about it this way. Any business in America that needs, actually around the globe, that needs internet connection, whether it is a mom and pop shop that needs to have internet, or it's a global player like IBM or Accenture or Deloitte, they all need network connectivity, and everybody needs different levels of that connectivity. The organization that I am responsible in leading transformation supports the provisioning and the turn-up of all of that internet service and the management of that internet service. A couple of years ago, I was asked to come over and start the transformation office. And if you can imagine, the organization is over 100 years old. And so that means there are a lot of opportunities to think about how we modernize and transform both our employees' experience as well as our customer experience. So my team works with the different operational teams around the world, and we identify the different pain points for our customers and our employees, whether it be process or tooling. And then we work with them to imagine what tomorrow could be. And we put in place initiatives that get us to the target of where we're trying to get to. It's been an amazing experience personally to just be able to work with so many experienced people at AT&T, to learn from them, to grow from them, and also to help them change and leave a legacy on AT&T for our future that is coming tomorrow.
Awesome. So I touched on it before. You've got 20 years at AT&T, which is amazing tenure, especially, we don't see too much of that these days. I'd love to know a little bit more about what your career looked like up until now and some of the milestones or tipping points that you've sort of noted along the way.
It's a journey. Like I think so many people will say that the really awesome thing about being at AT&T this long is that it hasn't felt that I've been in the same company for that long. As you can imagine, AT&T is huge. So there's been so many opportunities. I started in Bell South, which was a regional telecom company in Atlanta, Georgia. And that was one set of experiences. And I've been able to take that experience, and then as AT&T came in and put all of our local exchange carriers, local telephone companies back together into one organization. I've been a part of that coming back together of those organizations. In the early to mid 2000s, I was about 10 to 15 years out of college. Personally, I was coming out as a gay man. And so, at that point in my career, it was about maintaining my career. And it wasn't as much about growth as it was just, my personal development as to, who am I as an authentic leader? What does that look like? How do I be an authentic leader in an organization? What do I feel comfortable with? What didn't I feel comfortable with? And just kind of really becoming my whole person. And in that, really just, I have to say, in all honesty, just kind of maintaining and being okay with my career in a maintenance mode, just trying to get to understand who I am. As I shifted out of that and really became comfortable, and that's one thing that I've loved about AT&T is their focus on diversity and inclusion. Nothing is better than allowing your employees to come to work with their whole self. And so AT&T gave me that landscape early on. Quickly, I was able to come to terms with who I was. That has only accelerated me as a leader for AT&T. And I've been able to use that platform of myself as I've gone up in leadership to really create a safe place for those around me who might need to be their authentic self at work. And so it's been an amazing thing. In my career, after I did that, I basically got into really the technology space. So I left out one part. I came out of school as a public auditor. And then I got into technology through AT&T. And so that was a journey in and of itself, right? Two very different worlds at the time. They've somewhat merged, as everything has merged with technology. But at that time, it was pretty different. I had a great mentor in the late 2010 to 2016 years of my career. And they really helped me build my personal confidence that, number one, I could shift my skills from accounting into technology. They gave me a lot of structured thinking on how to take massive technology problems and break it down into manageable, executable parts so that we could make progress on big things that we were trying to accomplish. And so I would say that after a few years of that, I really started to gain personal confidence in the technology space. Throughout that time, I moved to Dallas to AT&T headquarters, and that was an eye-opener for me. Just to see the importance of relationships and building relationships when you're in a global corporation and you're suddenly at headquarters. It was an incredible learning for me to see how valuable it is to really do what you say you're going to do it well, and build relationships so that you can even do the next thing on your list better. And so that was kind of an eye-opening experience. And then in all honesty, I kind of hit a hurdle in my career in 2017. I just had an opportunity where I was really outside of my comfort zone, and it was really, really hard. As I reflect on it, people say that the hardest things really give you an opportunity to mature and grow. It is absolutely true. I can remember during those years having some thoughts of, do I give up on this and try on something else, right? How do I get through this? Luckily, having a strong support structure at home and having a strong family at home, as well as having some really strong relationships at AT&T, got me through those challenging years. And now when I look back at it, it was something that absolutely had to happen in order for me to continue to grow as a leader and to be able to learn how to take constructive feedback about my performance and some of the challenges that I was having, and to be able to listen to it, to mold who I wanted to be out of that challenge and come out stronger. And after that, it's really been a great success. So now, as I mentioned, I was pulled over to do the global operations transformation office. The last couple of years have been, again, really just building confidence again based off that couple of challenging years that I had, and really getting to a point of boldness to where I am today. And this year, my year is all around signals, action, and listening. So what does that mean? I think it is extremely important for leadership to send the right signals of what we want to accomplish, but then show that we are committed to those signals by the actions that we take, and continually being at the table to listen so that we can steer the organization down the right path. And as we've moved into ServiceNow, that signal, action, and listening has been absolutely critical to our success.
Wow, and thanks for sharing that. And I think, sometimes, that question that I asked, it really lends itself to talking more about transactional tipping points. And I really just thanks a lot for so much for sharing a lot of those key learns there. I think you're definitely embracing the authentic leadership piece there that is spoken about so much on some of the social platforms. So it's really great to see you're living that. I know for us, it's when we're speaking to more junior people in the marketplace, it's very easy to always think that senior people have always been senior and it was a very linear journey. But it's great to see that there is I'm sure it will give them confidence that it's not always a straight line and there is a rocky road sometimes to leadership. So I really appreciate you sharing that. So when you look at ServiceNow specifically, everyone has a different story. How did you get introduced to ServiceNow, and how long have you been involved with that?
By accident, in all honesty, Ben.
That seems to be the common response, actually, believe it or not.
Oh, interesting. So yeah, 3 years ago, there was a gentleman in the initial launch of our transformation office who worked with our executive vice president at the time to introduce ServiceNow in an area of our global operations team. I have to say, there was a significant amount of pushback from a lot of the legacy technology teams, if you will, to say, this isn't going to work, right? This is a cloud platform at this scale. We have too much legacy and technical debt. It's just not going to work. I'm, on the other hand, was one of those that said, hey, the world is going towards a cloud infrastructure. ServiceNow is the dominant player in a lot of these areas that we're looking to transform. Let's start somewhere and see where we go. And so it was really by accident that I got introduced to ServiceNow. I was lucky enough to actually lead some of those initial projects that were deployed on ServiceNow. And so as I got my teeth into it a little bit more, I really saw the opportunity that we had to go as far as we could with ServiceNow. And so we've really moved ServiceNow. Recently, AT&T has an enterprise license with ServiceNow. Not only our global operations team, but the whole firm has a license agreement with ServiceNow. Oh, wow. So starting this year, the wheels have come off, if you will. Our training wheels are off. We are all in with ServiceNow at this point.
Amazing. So let's talk digital transformation more generally. And I'd like to zoom out a little because you've obviously got more holistic experience even outside of the platform. What are some of the trends and challenges that are driving transformation in the telco industry specifically?
Yeah, I mean, like so many, right? You hear about the customer experience, and our vision, our mission this year is customer service as a differentiator. I think with COVID and the situation that so many of us are in working from home, and that's around the globe, right? We see businesses wanting to spend more money on network connectivity. And I don't know if you've heard this, but a lot of senior executives in companies are using a phrase, owning the home, right? That they know that their employees are at home. They want to make sure that it is a secure connection, that it is a stable connection. And so they're looking at kind of complete packages of what does that mean for their employees at home. And when you think about it from my perspective, that means that at AT&T, we no longer need to be concerned with just one aspect or one product. So what do I mean by that? It's no longer just about getting a connection to the home, but it's also about, what collaboration tools for voice need to be a part of our package. How do we make that a secure connection so that whatever voice and data products they're using on our network, they are as secure as possible, and we are offering tight security for that. What that means for us is that for so long we have approached our products as products and not as solutions that may be all bundled together. So if we're going to be if customer service is going to be a differentiator for us, then we need to really look at how do we create the technology within so that our employees can offer that customer service. And so, as the telecom industry really moves more and more to solution providers from not only connectivity, but those products that ride on the connectivity, our world in the back end and global operations has to start looking at it from a technology perspective where we can implement those experiences through simple tooling that allow our employees to offer those experiences to our customers.
And how is ServiceNow specifically positioned to impact these challenges?
So if you look at what ServiceNow originally was known for, right? Ticket management, incident management, problem management. Well, if you can imagine at AT&T, we sell all these services. Well, then we have to be able to support them. And when the customer buys something from AT&T, they don't really care, as they shouldn't care, what product or what part of the business within AT&T may be supporting that product. They want to know that they bought a solution and they can come to AT&T and get an answer and get their day two service assurance type problem resolved. So that's a natural fit for ServiceNow to come in and us implement that to do the change incident problem management space. What's fairly new in the ServiceNow world and something that we are starting to really look at and implement is the telecom services module. And that's really focused on the telecom vertical within ServiceNow. And it's more in what we call the service delivery space or the order orchestration space. Again, as our customers are buying these services as a solution, we need to be able to orchestrate that solution across all of the different sites that customer might have. And so the TSM module gives us that capability to do that order orchestration across all of the different products within different sites and across sites for that customer. And so we're excited about it. We are down the path of implementing that module within AT&T, partnered very much with ServiceNow. And the cool part about it is because we're an early adopter, we are at the table as well, offering insights to their product roadmap so that as they deliver what we need, we are a voice saying the priority of some of those features. And so it's been a really great partnership with ServiceNow.
And if you had to, and I'm obviously massively oversimplifying now, but if you had to pick sort of top 2 or 3 reasons why it is the platform of choice, what would you say? What would be your 3 you'd choose?
Number one, the partnership, AT&T and ServiceNow partnering on the roadmap of the features and us being able to be at the table to prioritize what comes next is really important for why we would want to continue in the partnership with ServiceNow. The second thing is really around flexibility. We've been able to see significant decreases in how fast we can deploy something for our users using ServiceNow and out-of-the-box capabilities. And then the third one is a thing called citizens development on ServiceNow. And what that means is we can enable our business to do their own development within ServiceNow. If you've been around technology a while, you will resonate with this. But it used to be you develop requirements, right? And then 12 months down the road, technology actually delivers. And a lot of times, then what you thought you were getting, you may not have gotten exactly. But what we're able to do with citizens development and that opportunity in ServiceNow is we can enable our business to go in and create and configure ServiceNow real time for what they need versus them having to rely on us. And I think that's one of the greatest powers of ServiceNow is to enable our business to enable themselves for what they need.
And traditionally, the platforms have been fairly industry agnostic, right? As you're pioneering ServiceNow's telco industry solution, what's been some of the value that it's bringing to the business? And I appreciate you spoke a little bit to this earlier, but I'd love to dig into that a little bit more.
We already talked about the time to market and that the reduction of from months or potentially years to what we've seen in weeks. The other thing that I would say that we are able to really get from ServiceNow is across our tens of thousands of people, we have a lot of opportunity to create similar experiences for similar personas. So let me just give you an example. The way that we want to implement the TSM module is that we create some level of product agnostic flow within the TSM module. And then we are able to add on different products based on that product agnostic flow. Well, that's really powerful for us as we think about customer service as a differentiator, because we can now create different products and flows within ServiceNow, but they all connect. And so when they connect, that empowers us to offer those solutions. And we are then able to really connect those solutions back to what the customer wants. And that really gives us a differentiator in the marketplace. And that all comes from, pioneering this ServiceNow telco industry solution and working so closely with ServiceNow based on what we're seeing and what we need from a business. We've had some interesting implementation challenges that I would want.
I'm sure.
Yeah, it's nothing's easy. And kind of back to what you said about career, right? If you think it's just a straight shot to the top, it's the same in implementing technology. It's never just a cut and paste. And so this has been an interesting learning. And what I would say to anybody that's going down the path of looking at any SaaS platform, particularly ServiceNow, start with your data infrastructure and your data modeling. These platforms are powerful when you can use the out-of-the-box data structures and then the out-of-the-box configurations. The minute you get into custom and you start to really custom the data structures, you really get out of reuse. And then you have to do custom development on top. And then your development, your business units can't do their own citizens development on top. So it just becomes exponentially more difficult if you don't start with the data. And that would be my number one thing that I would say is a weakness that you really need to consider up front, that we learned the hard way.
It's good for you to be able to admit that. And when you're looking at implementation best practice, if you're looking to pay experience forward, what would be your tips for anyone embarking on something similar?
I am very, very passionate about starting with the experience. So Once you have the underground of the data all laid out, and honestly, kind of in concert with it, because as you lay out the experience and as you're figuring out your data models, when those two things kind of come together to form the ultimate experience, there's a lot of interdependencies. And so starting with the experience along with data is absolutely critical. One of the things that we have run into in looking at the experience is because we're being so conscious to do things out of the box, that does have some limitations on the actual design and UI of the experience that you can deliver within ServiceNow. But the piece that you can really connect is the information architecture. And what I mean by that is the way that the data is used within the ServiceNow experience, and you have a lot of flexibility in how you configure that. And so the UI, you may not have as much control over, but you do have a lot of control over the information architecture and how that contributes to the overall experience. And so just start with the experience, do everything around what your users need, and that will ultimately drive up your adoption.
When we're looking at some of the mentorship side of the podcast, educating and managing through sort of stakeholders or even executive sponsors is a key message. What would be your advice to if you were advising a C-suite level individual on what needs to happen for a successful implementation? What would that be?
One of my colleagues, his name's William Traylor, and he was one of the guys that started the transformation office with me. His thing he always reminds me about is transformation is messy, Ryan. And you got to remember that as you're going on any of these journeys to move to a new platform. It's messy. The first attempts at anything, you're going to learn, and you're going to learn a lot. And in my opinion, you have to give yourself some grace to be able to learn and keep trying. The thing about it is what I've really come to terms with is if we keep our users at the center of everything that we do, we prototype, we demo, we fail, we prototype, we demo, we succeed. It's just this constant cycle. And because of the relationship that we have with our users and their experience, and they're at the center of what we do, they're willing to try and fail with us. As a technologist, if we go off and create something and they're not at the center of what we do, then they're going to wonder where in the heck we came up with something. And it's going to turn into a friction point rather than a relationship that reaps opportunity. So just keep the users at the center of everything you do, learn together, make them a part of the learning, and I will guarantee that it will get better with time and you will succeed at what you're trying to do.
And I love that. So it really does all start with just realizing it's going to be messy. Once you've got your head in that space, it's probably all good from there.
Yeah, exactly.
And what about building a team, right? These are the product and platform, is fairly new. People are starting to build and scale large teams within enterprise. What are your sort of tips for building a winning ServiceNow?
Building a ServiceNow team is critical, just in general. When you're forming a team, diversity of gender, race, diversity across the board is critical. And so really taking a step back and making sure that the team understands the why you're doing something. The team, and that includes your users and the stakeholders around the users, the why and understanding that and getting the narrative around why it's so important is absolutely critical. I would say that not every person is a transformation agent. And so be very intentional about the types of people that you bring in to do your transformation to ServiceNow. You will need deeply technical people that need to be trained and versed in ServiceNow. You will have those that need to face off with the business that may not need to be as technical, but need to have that relationship acumen, the soft skills to be able to bring the business along in a very messy world. And so just looking at it as a whole and being very intentional on who you pull in to make it successful is key. The second part of that is be willing to realize when you have the wrong person, to swap them out or to give them a different opportunity based on what you've observed. And giving yourself that flexibility is absolutely key, because you will realize that once you get into this, there might be people that you thought were suited that might not be suited, and you want to make a swap.
And when we look at the platform for AT&T, look, it sounds like you've got enough on your plate at the moment, but what are you thinking about? What's next? Have you?
I'm always thinking about what's next. But yeah, for ServiceNow specifically, We've just started on the journey for the TSM module. And, like I said earlier, we're going to have learnings, we're going to have failures, we're going to have successes. And so we've got to strengthen that model within ServiceNow. We really need to, and some of the things we're doing right now is prove some of these theories out as we integrate with other SaaS platforms like Salesforce, and just make sure that we are solid as we build capabilities on top of it. One of the things that I've learned in all of my platform development over the years is build the solid platform before you start adding too many features. Because as you add features, if the underlying platform isn't hardened enough, it gets really expensive to build the features. And so I really hope that we take the time with ServiceNow to build that module, make it super solid, and then we start to really go gangbusters on the features on top of the platform. People like us, our now partners, our ServiceNow partners like Accenture and GuideVision and GlideFast, they're all investing. We're all investing human capital and technology. And so I really believe that this investment is going to mature pretty quickly.
Just, as we're coming to a close, I suppose last two questions to me are very much on that sort of mentorship track. And again, we talk to a lot of people that are approaching leadership roles, are taking that jump from director to VP. You've got 20 years of doing this. I'd love to know your advice for navigating leadership roles within an enterprise organization.
Yeah, sure. The best advice that was ever given to me was when AT&T merged with Bell South. My executive director at the time had a one-on-one with me, and he said, I just want you to know the number one thing that you can do at AT&T is pick up the phone and talk to people. And that may sound like legacy dark age thinking, but I find that in the morning when I make my first, 6 to 8 phone calls each day, which I try to set time aside to do that, that's where I get the most valuable work done. Because I'm building relationship, but I'm also able to quickly get through critical items and move things along that I may not have time to even talk about or think about the remainder of the day. So pick up the phone is just a motto that I live by. The second thing, and we've touched on it a little bit, is give yourself some grace. As you heard in my career, it hasn't been a straight shot. Allow yourself to learn. The only way we get better is to learn. And so give yourself some grace that you're going to have opportunities to get better at something. If you think you're perfect in everything, then it's going to be really hard to navigate through any corporation, or I would say any job. So just invest in relationships, look for opportunities to invest in relationships, be very intentional on what relationships you want to cultivate, so that you have a strategy and those opportunities really open up for you in the future.
So I love the fact that mentors and mentorship has been, a theme, whether through accident or design, through this conversation. Is amazing. So if you were to be your own mentor, what advice would you give to your younger self if you could go back 10 years and, have a redo? What would the advice be?
I think the first and foremost thing would be that, it is a journey. Hard things in life are there, I believe, for a purpose. And if you have a growth mindset around it, you will come out much, much stronger. I shared a little bit about this, Ben, the last time we spoke. My mother raised 9 kids, and she is an extremely organized, incredible person. And I learned so much from her. And one of the things that I learned from her is organization and how to basically take an army of people and things and execute on it and move it forward. I don't think I realized the value of that until probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And being able to reflect on that and acknowledge that skill set that I learned from her and then apply it to my day job has given me exponential opportunity in my career. And so take time to reflect on things that you probably already know how to do or have seen from your family or mentors, and just think about how that might apply to your own career and space, and then have confidence in it and just do it. And when you just do it, I think those things are going to really pay off for you, because at the end of the day, it was ingrained in me. I didn't realize how ingrained it was from my mom, but at the end of the day, it is just really become a foundation of organization and execution for my own career. And it helps me to deliver value for the business.
Fantastic. That's a lovely story. Ryan, look, I really appreciate your time. You've given us so much to think about from transformation, from authentic leadership, just general advice and mentorship. And I really appreciate you taking the time to do that. Is there anything you'd like to add before we close?
Yeah, transformation's a journey. I've said it multiple times. It's messy.
Right.
One of my favorite quotes from our AT&T business CEO, Ann Chow, is that change happens, but transformation is a choice. Just get behind it if you're going to do it and you're going to do it. Give yourself grace to make the mistakes that you're going to make. Nothing is perfect. And have fun while you're doing it. Build a good team around you, and I am positive that you will be successful at what you set out to do.
What an amazing end to a great conversation. Ryan, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise, Ben. Thank you very much.
AI in Action is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Alldus offer an exec search program. Alldus can help you discover how data science and AI can transform your company. With our unrivaled network of C-suite executives and senior AI professionals, we offer retained search services across the US and Europe. Get the Alldus advantage. Become a member of the Alldus community and enjoy some of the following: AI meetups. Once a month, our community gathers to listen to some of the leading experts in the world of data science and AI. Our speakers come from all over the world, including Dublin, Boston, and Frankfurt. We also have our AI mentors. Our experts will provide mentoring to Alldus members. And don't forget our AI in Action podcast. Each week we have guests from all over the world talking us through their education, career, and more. Become an Alldus member and get the Alldus advantage. For more information and to sign up for our newsletter, log on to www.alldus.com. That's www.alldus.com. Alldus International, empowering through AI.